All right, we're back, and it's still Crossfire with Dakbo and Ishoma. It's a Friday, and it's a very pleasant, beautiful one. The sun is just, very mild, and people are just going about their daily activities. And we have a guest in the studio who will definitely be running the show with us from top to bottom, and is no other person but Barrister Liberus Oshoma. Good to have you on our show this morning.
My pleasure,
Barrister.
always.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's always very nice, to shake hands like this when you have the privilege to do so.
Yes,
All right,
because
yes.
a time may come,
to shake your hands when I have the privilege.
because a time may come when it's going to be a wave that I will be able to get. It will go like that.
Away from a distance.
Yeah, from a distance.
because of the impression we have about us. You have Nigerians are, a lot of us are, either in government or waiting to be in government.
Exactly.
Even those outside government are waiting to be in government.
Yes.
And the only viable business for a lot of Nigerians is only when I'm in business, I'm in government.
Yeah, politics.
So that shouldn't be. I went to school to read law. And I'm practicing law, and maybe other thing is secondary, and so I'm not.
There was a roll call that was taken some time ago. I was just with a couple of friends, and we find out that majority of the people, maybe
who are in
not,
politics,
yes, who are in politics today are lawyers.
Yes, there is this perception. There's this perception, and it is very wrong. There's this perception that. You can only do it well when you are a lawyer. Even some of them, after leaving office, they feel intimidated and they go back to read law. Remember Alex Ekweme had to go read law even after becoming vice president. A renowned architect. I remember late Admiral Michael Ohaya Higbe.
Yes.
After becoming vice president of Nigeria. So all of these are what's it's giving people the impression that for you to do these things, you need to be a lawyer. Not really, not necessarily.
At least we have about 4, even in the current cabinet.
And then also, 4 lawyers. There are so many of them that
we
are
see how they're faring.
And then that was why at some point, it was you had universities of technology offering law courses, and don't also forget the impact of people like late Pa Obafemi Awolowo in politics and so. But you also had brilliant journalists, like Malaji Lateef Jakonde, Oshoba and co, who also contributed immensely to the achievements of Awolowo and the rest. And so it's not necessarily about being a lawyer. If you go to America, journalists play, a more active role in the development of the society because they are the watchdog. They mirror the society.
The fourth realm of government, as they are fondly referred to.
Exactly, and so people follow them closely because they break the news. And in some cases, they go outside their
jurisdiction
to investigate. Exactly. Look at what is happening to Trump now. If it takes, the journalists to begin to unravel,
what
the
you
lies.
Said before,
yes,
and it's playing out now.
Not the lawyers. And so I think our society need to try to remove our mindset from that ancient mindset that you have to be.
Very well
there are
said.
engineers also who are doing well.
Very well
there are
said.
medical doctors. It's just like you remember there was a time when banking was the only job for the average
lawyers
graduate.
Are there, engineers
I
had
friends who were engineering, medicine. I had a friend who read medicine, qualified medical doctor. He went to work in a bank and then he now had to be a chartered accountant and all of that. Wow. I'm telling you, because for him the pay was not good.
Yes, I think it's a country thing. And maybe a couple of times we can blame it on mindset and what exactly obtains at at that particular point in time.
What really, before now there was this overemphasis on professional courses. There were some courses they regarded as professional, some non-professional.
Accounting, medicine, engineering.
Top on that
exactly.
Law.
And so everybody wanted to be. So, but they forgot. And then the society also gradually started neglecting and relegating those other people that read history, geography, political science, and So everybody now wanted to do a course where he would not necessarily contribute to the society, but be able to eke out a living for himself. Until the advent of home videos, theater act was
nothing anybody
wanted to touch with a long pole. So it's a societal, it's a governmental thing. Until we begin to diversify our structures. You go to California, it's built on, education. Governments world over are diversifying into a knowledge-based economy.
Exactly.
But here we are still talking about,
some professionals
how to look for oil in the Chad Basin. And,
All right. Very well said then. We have Barrister Liboros Ushoma in the studio with us. And myself and Ishoma will be doing as much as we can to pass a lot of information out there. Okay, quickly, let's go to the business of the day. We have a couple of stories making headlines. I'll be taking our thoughts on it. Federal government to henceforth consider hate speeches as act of domestic terrorism. Now, this is really very trending, and to a very large extent, I think the acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, is doing justice to this, because I remembered that the antecedents of the I would like quick notice that was issued to the Igbos a couple of weeks back, and so the very comment has drawn a line on hate speeches, warning that it will henceforth be considered as a domestic terrorism, and I think it's still very trending. I don't know how very, very potent the October 1st deadline to the Igbos leaving the North is, but I mean, to a very large extent, information in the public domain is still having it like they still mean what they say. Let's take your thoughts on what has been trending on hate speeches and what Professor Yemi Osinbajo tagged it as now, domestic terrorism.
The unfortunate part of this whole thing is that in Nigeria, when government wants to avoid responsibility, they try to enact a law to criminalize, an action that is already a criminal, action. And so that's what I see happening here. And then you begin to ask yourself, some people gave quick notice to fellow Nigerians to leave
their country,
a part of the country, a location in the country. Not government, ordinary man says, look, I give you deadline to leave this area. Otherwise, whatever happens, already that in itself, it's a violation of those people's rights as enshrined in our constitution. Freedom of movement, freedom to associate and do business anywhere. And also the fact that you're already telling them that they're not Nigerian. Government did not do anything. Government is waiting to enact a law to tag those words hate speeches. I wonder, with the way we pass laws at our National Assembly, before the law eventually is passed and assented to, I just pray that people will not have died. So that's why and then if the law is eventually passed, the implementation of even the one that we have, it's a problem for us. We have not even implemented, as obsolete as some of them might be, we have not been able to implement them. We create excuses why we cannot implement them, and then we add new ones to the existing ones that also, in no time, before we know it, we'll forget about whether those laws exist, actually. And so that's why, for me, it is, let's leave these rhetorics. Let's leave slogans. Let's face the issues at hand. If you remember the first time the President Muhammadu Buhari, went this last medical trip before this one, everybody was eulogizing Osinbajo, the acting president. Why? Because he took steps that even his boss did not take. Visiting these areas that are aggrieved, showing that, look, showing government presence, let's build bridges, of mutual trust. And what stops the continuation on that we always like setting up committees here when, over something we can do. And all what we are seeing now is the fact that a lot of water has gone under the bridges. Everybody feels marginalized in this country. That is why everybody wants to be in government. They believe that it's only when you're in government that you can do something for your people. Meanwhile, you want to do something for yourself. So, and that's why you hear all of this, it's our turn now, it's our son, he stole from us, leave him, have you prosecuted others that also collectively stole? So what can we do to build bridges? And at the same time, use some people to set examples. And it is not until you begin to pass, or you say from now, henceforth, do something, use people to say. That's what government needs to show, that it has, that capacity to deal decisively with issues of criminality. Because once you allow it, you allow the first one, you allow the second one, it festers, because the impression it gives those that have the capacity to do it but are not yet doing it is that, look, it pays to do this thing. That's how we allowed kidnapping become part of our, because from militancy, it dovetailed into kidnapping, and then gradually people started asking for amnesty for militants, and then amnesty for kidnappers, and now it's, a normal thing.
All right, now a very quick one. Just a bit of a bit of a diversion from your thought. We have a more mature democracy in the United States. And I know that the constitution of a country is always a function of how things are evolving in that environment.
Yeah.
Something happened in the United States that is of a great concern, and they are still trying to deal with it. Before President Trump...
They didn't make laws to deal with it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Before President Trump became the president, he made a lot of statements that could be categorized as hate speeches. Now he is the president, and some of the things he said is exactly, and materializing. Because it's generating into a lot of things, and to a very large extent, he has not been able to manage it well. My question is, don't you think it's in the right direction for government, like what acting president is doing, for government to begin to say, okay, since we are an evolving democracy too, if this thing is happening, it does not matter whether we have some other laws in time past. We can actually enact new ones. We can actually
bring... What's the purpose? No. Multiplicity of laws? Is that what you want?
Not particularly. Maybe there are some certain things that the old one did not address.
Do you know how you build confidence in your citizens? Your ability to implement your laws. Nobody is saying don't add other ones. Don't update them when they are obsolete. Your ability to build confidence, it's how well you are able to implement the law. Even for businesses. If I am a businessman, I know that if I come to this country, if I have a dispute with, a colleague or a fellow businessman, it will take eternity for me to get redress in the court of law. I won't come.
That's true.
I would rather go to a place where, I know I have security, and then I have redress in the court of law. And so what I am saying is, even the ones that we have, how well have we used them? Successfully. That when you're now saying, look, we want to amend, we want to add to the existing one, people will say, yes, there's need for it. So what I'm saying is, use the ones that we have available to deal decisively with some of these issues. So once you do that, we now know that there are lacunas, and so you begin to plug those lacunas. But when you sit down helplessly and it takes you how many months after those statements were made for you to suddenly realize that you want to criminalize hate speeches, what you're telling the people is that, look, we are buck passing. Now,
because this is beyond freedom of speech.
I for deal with this man.
This is beyond. This is beyond freedom of speech. That I can say what I want to say. It's my word. I can say what I want to say. But and it's totally against.
Do you know?
I mean, it's totally different from when you categorize it as a hate speech.
Do you know? Your freedom to say what you want to say is limited also. That's why there are malicious publications. It's part of our laws. That's why there are seditions. It's part of our laws. That's why there are defamation. You remember, the states can even prosecute you for publications that are likely to breach public peace.
Yeah.
Even if it's the truth. Even if it is the truth.
No, but
as long as
even if it's the no, wait. Let me break it down.
Okay.
Let me break it down.
Okay.
But there is what we call justification.
Yeah.
If it is the truth, it is for you to justify that I am not just making this statement out of the blues.
Exactly.
These are the facts. It is obvious that, this is A, this is B, this is C.
Yes.
It becomes your defense during prosecution.
Yeah.
But in this case, you are now going to look for, even if you make the law today, you cannot use it to prosecute people that made statements yesterday.
Okay.
You understand?
It will be going forward.
Not, applying retroactively. So that is why you need to look at, your books and say, okay, we don't have this one now, but we need to ensure that we don't encourage, things like this. Let us deal with it. And the moment Shettima's own was allowed to go, that's why I'm telling you, festering. Others started issuing. Niger Delta issued. Yoruba people issued. Everybody started issuing.
Exactly.
And also, because you also allowed Nnamdi Kanu, you allow Nnamdi Kanu to assume that attitude that is assuming. I watched some videos where, before he came out from the room, there was a guard of honor. The man even said that he was invited to take the 5-star state. He said no, he needed Port Harcourt and Benue. For me, that's
But
it's insane.
I'm telling you. So all of this, you need to put all of them in one box, and deal with them.
Okay.
All of them. But when you allow the Nnamdi Kanu zone,
as long as there are speeches that can incite,
and then Nnamdi Kanu comes out to say, apart from the fact that he said Nigeria he said election will not hold in Anambra.
Yes.
Government is waiting to see. And you see the kind of miscreants that go around with him. Government is waiting. Some people are saying he has revoked breached his bail conditions, with impunity. And then you'll say, we need to manage him, so that there won't be. Look, let me tell you, the heavens won't fall. The heavens would fall.
If you rearrest him.
If you arrest him today and put him where he belongs. And then others from the north, from the south, from the west that are equally issuing statements.
Get them arrested.
And put them where they belong.
Let the law take its course.
Government won't, because they use these same people for political reasons and for electioneering. And so that is why it's like, you rub my back, I rub your back.
Okay, well, I would have loved to ask a question, but then let's move on to another story. The issue as regards...
Ask the question, move to the story, and then I'll take all of it.
Okay, no problem. So I can ask the question. Now, I remember yesterday when, the acting president was making that statement as regards, letting go of hate speech and criminalizing it as an act of domestic terrorism. He made reference to the genocide in Israel, and the Holocaust rather in Israel, and the genocide in Rwanda. But if we look at these two nations and how they dealt with it, Nigeria on its own part is a very, very religious country, and it is drawn on ethnic lines. Now, we're not seeing much coming from government in terms of sit-downs with traditional rulers, pastors, clergymen, and all of that. Rather, on Sundays and on Fridays, we're having clergymen make speeches
that can be tagged hate speeches also.
So the issue now is, what is the government, or what should Nigerians do in terms of collective society re-engineering?
What Rwanda did was look after there's always the table before the war. And after the war, they come back to the table. So why don't you start from the table? And so what Rwanda did was to sit down and say, look, do we want to continue this way? Referendum. Allow the people determine if they want to continue this way. And once the people determine, there is no force on earth that can stop a determined people. And so once they determine that, look, we've had enough of this, we need to move. And together, collectively, they are moving. And that's why today, after the war, they are tagged the most developing country in Africa.
Yeah.
And so, here also, first and foremost, we need to agree that there are problems. And that we all have these pockets of issues here and there. But also, if you ask, even the average Igbo man that is saying, Nnamdi Kanu is saying, we want Biafra, if you put them together today and say, let's even sit down, tell ourselves the truth, and I'll decide.
I'm sure they won't still agree.
Many of them
I'm sure they won't still agree.
I tell you that majority, the average Igbo man is a Republican by nature. Yeah. In spite of the incidents of the war, you still saw them immediately after the war, they still all moved out.
Yes.
And there's this adage that there's no where you go to in Nigeria. If you get to any village and there's no Igbo man there, you better flee because it is not habitable for strangers. You know, and so for people like this, you should appreciate the fact that there are grievances. And so these grievances is what is leading to this extremism. Mm-hmm. And so if you are able to address them, the extremism, probably you meet at a crossroad. The same thing for all other regions. The only state that was created through a referendum in Nigeria is then Midwestern state that later became Bende and now Edo and Delta.
Yes.
And so state creation is not our problem. It's not. It is because people believe that you only
managing
get development
units and
that's why you need to create. It is managing the federative unit. How do we manage it? Some people were killed for unifying this country under a unitary system of government. General Thomas Agui-Rossi. But today, the people that killed him are operating the same system of government. So these are the issues. We need to all ask ourselves, can we progress like this? That's the only way we can progress. And that's why we are so religious, but less godly.
All right, we'll quickly go on a short break. When we come back, we'll take more stories. Join us again.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.